Welcome ladies and gentlemen to the Video Game Cemetery, the place where I talk about all things related to retro video games. Today I'm going to take a trip back to the year 1999 to take a look at one of my favourite handheld releases at the time, Bobble Metro 3D on the Game Boy Color. So, what do I think about Bobble Metro 3D on the Game Boy Color? Quite honestly, I love it. I played this game when it first came out, and so I do have a lot of nostalgia for it, but even if you take that away, the game still holds up as a great Bobble adventure. You play as Bub, and your objective is to traverse through the many levels in order to find the magic water for your brother Bob, who is unwell for some reason. The game never really clarifies why. This of course is the same story used in Bobble on the original Game Boy, although for some reason Bub is the only one still under the dragon curse in that version. Despite the story being the same basic plot, Bobble Metro 3D is a very different game in all other respects. Firstly, instead of being in a plain looking room, we're treated to a whole new atmosphere created by the beautiful background themes, and this really brings the Bobble world to life. Each set of levels has a boss that represents that theme, and once beaten, you'll be taken to a new themed world with a new background, so you can really feel the change in the atmosphere here. For example, you start off in the forest levels, but only up until you're beaten the first boss, the forest boss. There are many different monsters in the game, all from the original Bobble with the exception of the bosses, which now include a few new and exclusive ones, and all of them offer a very decent challenge. Even the first boss, the giant beluga that called himself Grape, took me a while to figure out his pattern when I first reached him. The stoners in this game have a really strange colour palette though, and I'm not too sure why. How come they don't have red eyes like the usual? I mean, the enemies turn red when they're pissed off, so it's not like the colour isn't in the game's palette already. Also, how the fuck is this 3D? Now, as beautiful as the game is to look at, it's not without its problems however. For one thing, the controls do feel a little bit stiff at times, and that can be a bit of a problem when trying to avoid Sawbones, which arrives when you take too long finishing a level. And because Sawbones is very quick, not to mention invincible, you do find yourself running into him quite a bit when he appears. The stiffness of the controls also seem to go hand in hand with the game's lag. It's not terrible, don't get me wrong, as I said I love this game, but it seems to run considerably slower than some of the other handheld Bobble titles. For example, Bobble Part 2 on the original Game Boy ran so smoothly, it was just so perfect, so I was a little surprised to see Bobble Metro 3D have these kinds of issues. It also has a few other minor problems, such as enemies trapped in bubbles not popping when you jump into them, and buggy hit detection at times. Now, you may notice that like many other handheld versions of Bobble, the game suffers a bit of a screen crunch. This seems to bother a ton of people, but in all honesty, it never bothered me at all with the Bobble games. Obviously, you're going to have the odd run-in with a monster that you can't see below or above you, but overall, it's just never really bothered me or personally taken away my enjoyment from the gameplay. Maybe I'm just used to it. As I said, I played these games when they first came out, so naturally, I'll have adjusted to these changes in that time. As for the difficulty, the game gives you 3 hit points, and if you get hit 3 times, you get a game over. There are no lives, just the one, but every level has a password, and you're given this password upon being killed, so you never have to go back several levels if you fail. I think this was a pretty decent decision personally, especially back in the day when I sucked a whole lot more at it. As I said earlier though, the biggest difficulty of this game, I feel, is the sometimes bad hit detection and stiff controls. And these fucking bastards with their fucking rocks! So yeah, the game has flaws, a few bugs here and there, some strange colour palette choices, and even the odd moment when you want to throw your Game Boy through the fucking wall. But overall, Bobble Metro 3D, in my honest opinion, is a fantastic game. A must-have for any fan of the Bobble series, and most definitely deserves a place on the shelves of the Video Game Cemetery. Thanks for watching.